Okay, in starting our look at the structure of the figure, the sort of the major surface anatomy, what I wanted to do is just start in the center of the trunk and look at the muscles that really operate the relationship between rib cage and pelvis. And there are three major muscles. It's the rectus abdominis, which we'll look at today, and then external oblique, which is on either side, that's connecting rib cage to pelvis, and then there's the extensor muscles in the back. So between those three groups, four if you sort of count the external oblique is sort of operating on each side, those do all or most of the major sort of bending and twisting movements that you see between rib cage and pelvis. So as you can see, I've started with the rectus abdominis, which is a large sort of frontal muscle that connects the front of the rib cage to the pelvis. And it starts, if we look over here at the skeleton, it starts in the 5th, 6th, and 7th intercostal cartilage of the rib cage. That means this area up in here, from about here down through here. That's where it's attaching and across, and attaches to the xiphoid process here as well. It comes down, so it starts up here, and then it comes all the way down and it attaches to the top part of the symphysis pubis, which is right here. So that's what I've indicated here. And of course, you know, when we draw this, we're going to have to lose some of our pelvis and rib cage that you drew. So it's starting up here along the 5th, 6th, and 7th ribs, and then it's traveling down and hitting right at the pubic bone there, that midline that we talked about. And you can see it's sort of a wide, flat muscle, and it can become, you know, quite full in terms of its volume, just depending on how developed it is. But there's always usually some kind of a plane break between sort of the outside of the figure and then when you get to this on the inside of the figure. It divides into these four sort of units. This top unit up here is covering part of the rib cage. So a lot of times this top unit you don't really see, and I've sort of drawn very lightly the arch of the rib cage underneath coming across. So this first muscle attaches above that arch and it overlaps it. So sometimes what it does effectively is sort of soften the arch. But as a bundle, you may not see it as clearly as these other ones. So coming down, you'll see there's sort of an angle to these bundles that reduces as you come down towards the navel. So to find the navel on your drawing, what you do is just sort of measure your head. You'll have that 3 inches, and then you'll come down 2 head lengths to find where your navel is. And that'll help you orient where that goes on the rectus abdominis. So it's going to be sort of close to the top of the pelvis, if you were at the back of the pelvis anyway, if you were looking at it from the front. So 1 head length down gets us to about the nipples. That's between the 4th and 5th rib here, and another head length gets us down to the navel, generally speaking. Okay. So you just notice you don't want to make it too wide because we've got another muscle that's going to go on the side here. So it's something that's inside the limit of the rib cage, as you can see, and obviously inside the limit of the pelvis as well. All right. So that's the view from the front, and then from the side, it's got a very thin aspect, right? Because it's not super thick. So most of it, we're going to see most of it when we're around to the front, and not so much from the side. But again, I've got started up here at the 5th, 6th, and 7th ribs up here, and then it's coming down and attaching again to the pubic bone, which is this midline here. Right. Notice too from the rectus abdominis, it's generally speaking, it's kind of moving outward in space until we get here, which is where the navel is. And at that last bundle, that's when it starts sort of pulling in. So it's a muscle that's sort of generally moving outward, and then it dives inward towards the pubic bone. Okay. All right, so again, that's our first muscle, the rectus abdominis. So go ahead and get that in your drawing. And I've done some sort of shading here just to give a little bit more interest to it. But all you really need to do at this point is to map out these boundaries and these division lines. And if that's as far as you want to go, that's fine. All right, so then once that's plotted, we'll come back and we'll look at the external oblique.